Hello, everybody, and huge welcome to all of you. I'm utterly delighted to have you here. And with me is David Bedrick. He is a speaker, teacher, attorney, and author. He wrote the book, Talking Back to Dr. Phil, Alternatives to Mainstream Psychology, and the book, Revisioning Activism, Bringing Depth, Dialogue, and Diversity to Individual and Social Change. And now, dun, 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 he has got his new book out, which is You Can't Judge a Body by Its Cover, 17 Women's Stories of Hunger, Body Shame, and Redemption. This book touched my heart, and I reached out to David and said, please, could you go live with me? Because it's so beautiful. He's the founder of the Santa Fe Institute for Shame-Based Studies, where he teaches and works with individuals around the world. I'm utterly delighted to have David with us. And I need you to know, if you're watching, that your comments are public. So if you don't want your comments to be public, then don't comment on the live video. You can comment afterwards in a group, but live it will be public. David, huge welcome to you. Thank you so much for coming to be with us.
What a pleasure. What a pleasure. Yes, it's been great meeting you. I actually never asked you how you pronounce your name, because we've always been, is it Zariya?
It's Zariya, yes.
Zariya, okay, that's what I've been saying. Okay, in my mind I've been saying
that. We just message on Facebook.
Right.
So yeah, it's just such a delight to connect with you. And I'm so grateful that you've put your energy to this, because it's such an essential thing, and so many people have such a struggle with it. What I would most love to hear is, through all your research in this book, what have you found? What is your research? What insights I'm just getting the link to it to be able to post it.
Okay.
What are you taking, what has been your biggest insights from researching this book and bringing it to the world?
It started more than 15 years ago now, and people ask me that, and I'm always competing in my mind for what's the most important. But there are four critical things that and it's hard for me to leave one out, but I'll let me say them because they're so important. The overview is that when people, particularly women, look at their own bodies, their eyes are often blended with a viewpoint that's unfriendly. Some people would call that a patriarchal or even misogynistic viewpoint, and I would think that's true. Something that objectifies, this doesn't look right, this is too small, this is too big, this is too round, this is not firm enough, things like that. And that view shames, it creates body shame. There's a lot we can say about that. But one thing to say about that is that efforts to change one's body, diet, eat different, get healthier, exercise, all those efforts very rarely work. The research says, and way beyond my research, hundreds of studies say that efforts like that work about 5% of the time. And it's a $70 billion industry in the States alone, the United States alone, where I'm living. So the question I then have in my research is, how come? Why can't people apply themselves and make a change? Why is it harder to make a sustainable change in one's body, health, eating habits than it is to get off heroin? Isn't that incredible? It's harder. Heroin's about 30% chance effective with a good program. Weight loss, sustainable changes, about 5%. And then I learned four things, Zariya. One is that many women have early stories, I'll talk more about that as we go, of being put down, teased, made to diet, looking at themselves negatively, and or being hurt, abused. And their bodies responded to that abuse by either getting smaller, I'll shrink by not eating, or getting bigger. I'll get big and be outside the patriarchal gaze because I won't be looked at as as prey to the male gaze. So those stories are very important. And if we proceed to go on some kind of a program, a weight loss, a health strategy, and don't take that into account, we're acting like those stories are irrelevant, and they're huge. I want to say more about each of these, but I want to say more about that one as we proceed. And the other is that women are hungry for certain things, and those hungers manifest also in food. So if you're hungry for power, feeling your own power in the world, you might connect with that through certain foods. What that means is that our hungers for food have deeper hungers that need to be known. Otherwise, we act like we're not genuinely hungry for something by saying we shouldn't eat. And the third thing is our body's sizes and shapes are not ignorant, undisciplined, stupid, worthy of shame. There's intelligence in the body and how it expresses itself. And the last thing is that there's internalized sexism and oppression, inner criticism, which hurts people. Now, each one of those I want to say more about, but in the upshot, I'm not saying people shouldn't make efforts to change their bodies, to change their health, to eat differently, but one should take into account all these deeper other factors. Otherwise, self-hatred and body shame adds and effectiveness goes away. True, that was a lot more than I thought I would say in an opening. Thanks for asking the question. Yeah.
Goodness, that's fascinating, because I think for so many of us, we're so struggling with just simply, we don't necessarily connect how much damage has been done through patriarchy, through abuse.
Yeah.
And I'm curious how your system what approach you've used on these women to help them understand how the past and the culture has impacted them.
It's a great question. The way I look at people, in this case, the women in this study, is I think I'm going to believe in what they're doing, whether that's eating potato chips at 2 a.m, whether that's getting bigger, whether that's trying a diet program and then never implementing it. I'm going to believe that there's something intelligent, that there's a message in that it's not because they're undisciplined, because they're stupid, because they're not caring about themselves, all of which message puts a person down, adds to the self-hatred, and doesn't, in the damage you're talking about, it doesn't help. So you have to look at somebody in a certain way that believes in them. For instance, you talked about the early stories and the damage done. So let me give an example. So one woman I worked with, she said she wanted to lose weight and that she was having a hard time. And I asked, was there a specific time in your life that your body changed its shape and weight? Because some people gain weight slowly over time. That's one way of being. And some people say, oh yeah, it's right at this time. And that's very important, because if there's a specific time, that's not true for everybody. If there's a specific time, then often there's a story, an experience, a detail of life that's very important to be known. So if I just say, well, you're not losing your weight, you're not following the program, here's a more discipline, then I don't ask about that story. And this woman said that somebody started stalking her online, a man, and started making lewd comments to her and writing to her. And she had an earlier abuse story, and that got triggered. So there alone, something happens. I say, oh, I want to hear about what happened. As opposed to, how do I get you to do the program that I think you should be on, that you think you should be on? I want to hear what happened. She said, here's an amazing thing, David. I said, what? She said, I never connected my weight gain to that story. So that alone, can you feel how compassion might start to enter her life at that moment? And so we started talking. I said, tell me more about this person who was tracking you online and writing you and sending you these messages. And as she started telling me the story, she said, oh my gosh. I said, what? She said, my hands are going numb. Isn't that incredible? That's powerful. I can tear up. I just think of that because I'm remembering now. What a strong experience is now coming to the fore. That's in her. It's coming to the fore. And I said, well, maybe you can touch your hands and connect with yourself. I thought that would help. And she said, I hear you. I'm trying to do that. Now my legs are going numb.
Mm.
My idea of helping her didn't help. It's not a bad idea. We're learning together. It didn't help. I said, oh, what's happening? She says, I don't know. And her eyes look like she's no longer present and she's getting numb. She's dissociating, some people would say. There's a trauma being activated. And that's a heavy topic to talk about for people who are watching. If things come up for you, hold yourself, treat your emotions as important, because these stories can trigger us. They trigger me sitting here in my memory of it, my own stories, I have my own violent stories. So I said, what do you think would help? She said, I think I would want to go away. I said, where would you go? She said, I'd go into bed and put the covers over me. So now I'm believing in her. I'm not thinking, no, how do we get her out of that? She spends too much time depressed in bed. I'm not thinking that. I'm thinking, David, keep believing in her. Believe that her impulse, her numbness is intelligent. It says, I don't want to be here. Right? I'm leaving emotionally, physically, going to bed. That must be a good direction for us. Do you need to literally go to bed? And then we can stop our time together because we were on a call. Or can you imagine doing it? She said, no, I can imagine doing that. I said, what's it like in bed? She said, I'm naked. Wow. I said, do you want to be? I'm thinking maybe she doesn't, but I'm asking because I'm believing in her, not my ideas, right? She said, no. I said, what would you put on? She said, I'd put on my sweatpants and my sweatshirt. I said, go ahead, imagine putting that on. Do you feel better? A little bit. That's not enough, right? A little bit is not enough. And I said, what would you do to make it better? I'd put on more sweatshirts and more sweatpants. How many more? Well, at least 2 more sweatpants and 2 more sweatshirts. It's important for me to slow down because I want to race through the point of the story, but the feelings are a part of the point of the story. I can hardly move on without taking time myself, Zariya, sitting here and just, that's a real story. People are going through those stories, laying on themselves, I should be losing weight, and never caring for their deeper experience. But can you see in your audience, she's creating layers of safety and protection. Can you see how her body might have an intelligence? I'm not saying she should do it that way. Her body says, before you tell me to stop eating potatoes and whatever else I'm eating, could you please talk to me about how to make more safety in my inner and outer world? Because otherwise you're acting like that story, it's a Me Too story, is not part of what you're looking at. Then you're complicit as a coach or as a therapist, David, as a program, complicit in the idea that just don't worry about all that stuff. You don't need protection. We don't have to deal with that part of your life. Yeah. Believing in a person.
That's huge. Because I can see exactly, and that's interesting that you chose that story to tell, because that's exactly what I've done for myself. I've got big boobs. And so wherever I went, guys would look at my boobs. I've been stalked. I've had the police park outside my house to catch a stalker. Wow. I've been raped. There's so many experiences I've gone through. And I find that if I'm fat, I don't get sexually abused. So for me, it's a cognitive choice that I don't want to lose weight because I'm a single mom. I don't want to put my kids at risk. So it's easier to, in this world, in this society, as we are now, to wear ugly clothes and to wear overweight things so that I don't look attractive in that way. And for me, when I found that I was trying to lose weight, I would sabotage it because the fear of being sexually abused or my kids being put at risk, somebody stalking, coming to my house again, I didn't want that. So for me, it was just a choice of this is where I'm going to stay for now, until maybe one day I do self-defense classes. But until then, it's safer for my kids and me as a single mom. And I accept that for now. It's not a culture and a society that we live in that allows, But maybe if I was in a relationship where I felt a level of safety and protection of somebody here, that I would be safer to lose weight. And that tends to happen. As soon as I get into a relationship, I lose weight because I have an external protection.
Incredible. Zariya, I'm so touched. I didn't know some of the details of your life. We're the first time we're really having this kind of a dialogue. And I'm just so touched to hear, one, the candor that you're bringing forward for me and the audience, and creating a space because of that. That's I mean, you know that about yourself, but I'm learning that. So I'm thinking, if I were talking to my partner, I'd say, wow, you wouldn't believe the candor and the courage. And I don't know what it takes for you, but I project that onto you. But that Zariya showed, and the deepening of a conversation by talking about her boobs and her abuse experience and what it's like to be a mother. That's the kind of facilitation we need in the world. People like you bringing those details forward, so there's not so much shame around them that they can't be said. Not that the shame is totally absent. And then people say, oh my gosh, me too. Maybe that's me also. Yeah. One woman said to me, that same woman, she said, when I was young, after my abuse experience, she said, I first stopped eating. And I said, what was that like? And I mentioned this before. Well, I was like invisible. And then I ate a lot. And what was that like? I was like invisible. You know, it's like, you're talking about that. It's a cultural story, but I never heard someone talking about the protection of their children also, by making a safer world around themselves as a mother. That's incredible. Thanks for that. I'm adding that to my understanding, deepening it.
You know, I think if I wasn't a single mother, then that would be different, because I wasn't as big. Whenever I'm in relationship, I lose weight. And then when I'm single, I put on weight as a protection.
Isn't that incredible? Right. And the cultural issue, not just of being a woman, and the sexism and the male gaze and the violence that you're subject to subtly or by objectifications, or less subtly by direct physical violence. Yeah, it's not just that. It's also the singleness and not having the protection of somebody else, what that protection is like. How do you inhabit your own body in the world, given a violent culture? It makes me so upset, because, of course, I want to do something that I don't have enough control over. I want to change the violence of the culture, and then you can decide you'll be with somebody, you'll not be with someone, whatever. You know, I know I can't do that in one moment.
Yes. I get that. And somebody said to me, you're giving your power away. And I said, no. I'm claiming my power, because I can't change anyone else in the world to stop their behavior towards me. But I can own that I want to be invisible, so that I'm not a target of sexual abuse.
What you just said is so important. You see, if somebody says you're giving your power away, okay, that's okay as a theory for a moment. But then I would never say that to someone unless they told me a different story than you just told me. But if I did say that, I would watch and listen to you so carefully, because if that pressured you, if you didn't have the personal power that you have and you're showing me, and you said, oh, maybe I shouldn't do it that way. Right? If I could influence you because you were more influenceable, is that a word? Influential, whatever. If I could influence you and you didn't have that strong constitution, and you went, oh, am I? Should I try to? What should I do about that, David? Now you would be following something that would put down your impulse. You wouldn't be believed, and shame would enter your system. You'd say, oh, I'm doing something. That's no good. That's because I'm not together. I'm not powerful enough. And there'd be you'd be wrapping your ideas of yourself in a put down, and that will always undermine your efforts and take away from your self-love. I don't know what you should be doing or not should be doing it more, doing it well, being more invisible, less visible. I don't know. You have to be believed. That's the point for me. You have to show me the way, and other people will then say, wow, that's mine also. Or somebody will say, actually, I didn't do it that way. Right? And if it's not a shaming method. I think good for them as well.
It's so good to have this conversation because I think that a lot of people live with so much shame, and there have been so many people who've brought questions to me for you. Are you ready for a quick fire of a series of questions?
I am. I have a little impulse to tell us one more story about the
Yes,
resistance
please.
to dieting, but
Yeah.
the questions are people's, and what should I follow, Zariya? Lead me.
Trust what you want to do. You want to tell us a story. We want to hear a story.
Okay, I'm gonna tell another story. I have so many. Well, there's 17 in the book, and I have so many more. But one of the stories, the first one in the book, is important to me, and I made it first because it's about what I call the resistance to following a program. And the reason why I think that's so important is because of the shame that enters. Because if 5% of the people continue some kind of program over a year, people over a few weeks can usually do something. You can go to a camp, count their calories, whatever. I'm going to get into my new outfit before July or whatever. People can do that over a short period of time, but people don't. And so I was so fascinated with that question, and I wanted to tell the first story in the book about that because it makes the point so well. And it was a woman, I call her Alexa. Everybody's consented and legally consented to me telling the stories, but I don't use their given names. But she said something so fascinating. She said, I know I should. My grandmother was overweight. She had problems. My mother was. I am. Already you're getting the intergenerational aspects. Sexism, trauma is probably in the background of the grandmother that I don't hear about. She's telling that story. And then she says, and I know they all wanted to lose weight, but I think I'm going to be effective. And I said, how are you going to be effective? This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to be disciplined. I'm going to drink more water. I'm going to eat more salads. And, she has some things that other people would think. These are the things I'm going to do. I said, well, have you tried that before? And she said, yes. And I said, does it work? And she says, it never works. But on this time, it's going to work, right? So now I'm going to believe her. I'm going to believe in a part of her that doesn't go along. Otherwise, I'm one more person saying, won't you do it? But she's saying, everybody who's told me that, and I've been beating myself up about it, it still hasn't helped. Somebody actually think maybe I'm doing something for a reason. So I said, what happens when you choose your diet plan? She says, as soon as I choose my plan, and she's tried many different ones online and her own, and she's been in programs and workshops. She says, before I even start the plan, I start imagining sweets and chocolate. And I go buy chocolate. Do you remember this story? I go buy chocolate. And she laughs. And I said, why are you laughing? She says, I don't even like chocolate. Now, to me, this is like, I love stories like that. Now, some people would think that's crazy. It's a nutcase or whatever, Why do people do that? She's sabotaging herself. All those things that would add more shame. What's wrong with you? You don't even like chocolate. Why are you eating chocolate? All the stuff that people would think that's going on in her head, that the diet program would think. And I said, that's fascinating. Okay, now think about this. Somebody, I'm going to represent it in these things. Here's somebody who says, drink more water, eat more salad, don't eat after 6 o'clock. That was one of her things, I think, right? Her answer is, I'm going to go get chocolate. That's her, right? That's her actual answer in life, right? Not her conscious what she wants. So I said, let's have a debate. I'm going to put you on the diet program. You should eat salads and da-da-da. And I want you to fight for eating chocolate. As crazy as that is, right? Why? Because not because I think she should eat chocolate, but I want the chocolate to win the argument so I can learn about chocolate, because the chocolate does win. It ends up eating chocolate, not the diet. You should drink more water. I'm going to eat the chocolate. Well, you should have more salads. I'm going to eat the chocolate. You don't even like chocolate. I'm going to eat chocolate anyway. That's crazy. Why would you eat something that you're not supposed to eat? I'll do what I want. I don't care what I'm supposed to do. Well, you should do what you're supposed to do, because I'm echoing, right? She says, no. Yes. No, you must do what I tell you. I'm putting you on the program. I'm the authority. I'm David Bedrick, the master communicator, intelligence about this. You've been through Weight Watchers. They're intelligent. Do what I say. No, she says, and big grin comes on her face. I said, what's so good about saying no? Zariya, she says, I never get to say no in my life. She was also a single mom, didn't want to say no to her kids because there was nobody else there and she's trying to be extra good. Doesn't want to say no to her boss. She needs her job. Tell me more about that. Let's assume you're the guru of no. Teach me why no is so important. Okay, I wrote down her words. I gotta get them for you. She says, this is what she says. She says, no, it's getting to put your 2 feet on the ground. It's just for you. It's only for you. It's the ability to say the words and have no repercussions. You can't do it at work because you can't afford to lose your job. If you say no in places where I can, I'll be able to hold back from saying it in the places where I can't. You have to do it. She says, you don't really exist if you can't say no first. That blew my mind. I didn't get that from my theory about psychology. She educated me that. Now, can you see, if you don't exist without saying no, can you see why she would be practicing? I called it the yoga of saying no. Put myself on a program, don't do it. Right?
Yeah.
I take one place and I'm going to practice saying no. I'm going to tell myself I should do something and I'm going to say no in the most radical way. I don't care what you say. I'll do something I don't even like just to say, screw you, I won't agree with you. Now, creating a diet program for her, if she still wants one, because she might not want, she might say, right now, if I were free, I wouldn't do the Dawn program. I'd say, don't do it. But she says, I still want to. I'd say, the beginning of your program, let's figure out how you can say no in more places. A little bit here or there, a little bit to the kids when you're overgiving a little bit when you're staying late at work. Let's see, because she says, I need to practice that. That's her intelligence. Yeah.
That's fascinating. And Liz says here, she feels the same way. The minute a program starts, she feels deprived. She thinks of food all day. And she wonders, is this like going, this food obsession, is it like going, nobody's the boss of me?
Yes.
And Liz, somebody who gives out massively to the world all the time.
Yeah, exactly. I love that phrase. Yes, nobody. Then I would say just that little bit. I'd have to ask Liz more questions to really understand. I wouldn't have to ask an hour, 2 hours worth of questions, 5 minutes, if I so to speak. It wouldn't take long because she's already there. But that energy, that power, that sensibility, no one's the boss of me. That needs to live. That wants to live. I would say, if I were thinking out loud, this may be totally wrong. Whenever I offer an idea, I would say to people, please listen with yourself and think that's not right for me. Otherwise, shame enters and it's not good. So I don't have the right idea, but I have ideas. But I'm imagining Liz standing up every morning before she does anything and say, no one's the boss of me. No, I'll do what I want. I won't do anything that I don't want to do today. And then she can go along with certain things because she's a human being and there are consequences. But just to connect, however she does that, with that part of herself, and see it as a glorious thing, see it as a beautiful thing to embody. Otherwise, she looks at the body as a problem, but look at the body's no. Whoa, that's me standing in myself. That will help her relationship with the body over time. Yeah, beautiful.
That is so helpful.
Yeah. Let's hear some of the other comments. I love hearing people's comments.
Okay, so now we've got about 12, 13 questions. So, answer, if you have enough, just let me know.
An hour a piece, so about 12 hours. So that's about right.
I've got all the time in the world.
No problem. David. Once we're in, we're in. Okay.
So the first question, how do you deal with or overcome body dysmorphia? At my biggest, size 22, I could not see that was big. I thought I looked okay in the mirror, but then when I saw a photo, I would blame the camera that it was unflattering. Mm-hmm. And then I lost a lot of weight, and now I'm at the lowest I've ever been as an adult, which is size 12. But I can't see that I'm any different. I just feel that others see something that I can't see. Wow. Will this change over time, and is there any way of working with it?
Yes. Thank you for saying that and including the details, the size 20, the size 12. Details are important for the shaming world because people don't mention, well, I was 273 pounds. I was a size 20. I was a size 6. I was a size 0. Somebody told me. People don't usually mention those because it brings up a lot of issues. So thank you for saying that. Yes, that's fascinating. Looking in the mirror and seeing yourself different the way other people see you. So I think of two things. One is in the form of a kind of a role play I would ask her to do with herself. I'm use pens but I'd say, and that would be, you could sit in a chair and then switch chairs, or you can, but moving helps to do this. So you could say, and the role play would be between two parts. One part that says, I don't see what you're talking about. And the other part that says, what do you lean? Look at you. You're a size 20 or whatever the size is, right? That's two different viewpoints. And I would do it, if I were doing it in this chair, I would say, you're a size 20, you're big. And then I would say, I don't see it. And the thing to do in that dialogue is get to know oneself. Make sure you play out the I see it and say more from that position. I see it, you're a size 20. And the thing to listen for in that part is that part saying, actually, dear, sweetheart, friend, self, you matter to me, and you're not only healthy and I'm caring about you. Is that the tone of that voice, or is it look at you? Is it a critical, harsh, unfriendly voice? How do you know that? Just bring it out. Say it more. Well, you are a size 20. And exaggerate it, because you want to hear the tone. If it's friendly, that's very different relationship to have with oneself. If it's unfriendly, look at you. Now I know what women say to them. Look at you. No one's ever going to love you. You're so unhealthy. Get it together. You're undisciplined. If it's that kind of tone, then you have to go to the other side and not only say, I don't see it, but say, I don't agree with your viewpoint about me. I'm not going to take in your lens. I don't care if I'm a size 7,000. I don't agree on principle. I'm not agreeing. I'm not taking in your critical view. I'm not open to that. So if it's unfriendly, you have to stand very strongly against the viewpoint, not the viewpoint of the literal size, but the viewpoint of the criticism. That will help change. Then if you have a boundary that you build out of that, punching back, hitting back, I'm not going to take it. If you have some boundary, you can then look at yourself and see other things. If you don't have that boundary, you have to say, I don't see it, because I'm not going to take in that criticism. So it could be, it's not always, but often, don't know for that woman, but it could be, I'm not seeing it because I'm not willing to have that criticism come in, or I'm insisting on seeing myself in a more beautiful way than the world does. Then insist, even though it looks unobjective, and stand for it. No, I won't agree with the world. I see myself in this particular way. So that would be if that's, Zariya, you can hear. Do you think, am I explaining it well enough for a person to try to do that?
Really well. And this specific person has done parts therapy. So that's perfect for her, because
very good.
She has done parts therapy before.
Yes.
So she knows.
Great. And then when she does those parts, when you do those parts, make sure you add more to the parts than you think may be there. If you may have already doing that in your parts therapy, so I don't know that. But in this thing, add to it, play with it, exaggerate it. If you can't, get 2 socks and make puppets. Well, you really are. Look at you. Exaggerate. Oh, I care about you so much. I love you. I just want to make you feel better. The reason why because the exaggeration will bring out things that the objective view won't. They'll really be there. People don't exaggerate and create something that's wrong. They create more of what's actually in those dialogues. So if it's really mean, I'm going to rip your head off. I know no one's ripping your head off, but that's the tone comes out. Anyway, I have another thought, but I'm not sure. Maybe we should move to another question.
That's so helpful.
Okay.
If you'd like to share the other thought, you're welcome to, because however many we get, the benefit we get is beautiful. But this is similar of a lady who wants a more level relationship with her weight. She's swung from a size 8 to a size 24, and she yo-yos from being caring and loving and watching what she eats to not caring and gaining weight. And she wonders, how can she get a balance?
Yeah. Yo-yoing is the most common result from a diet program. It's like 45, 50%. I can't remember what it was. Well, 95% lose and gain. But that yo-yoing is a really common thing. So I'm glad she's bringing it up. I wish I knew more about her yo-yoing, because there's a few different possibilities that are going on there. One is, I'm going back to what we just talked about. One is, see if you can speak like I modeled with that woman who ate the chocolate. See if you can speak out loud to at least yourself. If it's to another person, a therapist, some friends, it's good for other people to hear it. Speak out loud about why you refuse to diet more than a certain amount of time. That doesn't mean you shouldn't diet, but make sure you get to know that part of the self that says, I'm the boss. I won't do it. I've had enough. You can control me for 4 months, but you can't control me forever. And again, play helps that, because otherwise people don't think, like, well, it doesn't make sense. Why would I argue against that? I understand that, but let yourself be freer to do that. So that would be the first thing. The second thing is, if there are foods that you particularly love, it could be carbohydrates, it could be sweets, it could be ice cream or chips or specific. If you think of foods that you particularly love, then pick one that you think would be your absolute favorite in the moment, right? I would say, I really like sweets at night. Then I would say, Dave, what kind of sweets? Chocolate is good. What else is better? Ice cream. Okay, so pick one. I mean, even though it may not be only one. I like carbohydrates. Pick bread with butter or potato chips, or pick one. And this is what to do with it. Let's imagine, and I got this green thing. Let's imagine this is my ice cream. Then I would say, now relax yourself and imagine you had a scoop, a forkful, a handful of those yummy chips or ice creams, whatever. And imagine, don't do it literally, because I'm not encouraging the eating literally. Imagine you can put it in your mouth and taste it. So if I put my ice cream in my mouth, I would go, wow, because I like mint and chocolate and all that. Somebody else would go, Somebody else would go, oh, whoa, that's good. That's a really rich flavor. Now, watch my different things. So when you put this food in your mouth, make sounds that go with the satisfaction. This is very important, because we're trying to help you get in touch with a hunger inside the hunger, which you're deeply hungry for. And people are hungry for different things. So put that in your mouth, make that sound. And again, play is very important, because otherwise the mind keeps it, I don't know, it's kind of yummy. That's not good enough. Make a song out of it. If you can make a song, it's even better. I'm thinking, good. Okay, so I'm hearing commercials. Do that and play with that. And then ask yourself, if that were the sound or song of the way I want to live. Oh, I want to be happy. I just want to have life be sweeter and tastier. I want life to be more fulfilling. I want to grab a hold of something. I want to have good conversations. Imagine you could live more like that. You wanted that. Because many people are hungry for something and satisfy that hunger with a food and don't know what they're hungry for, because they have never asked and nobody's ever asked. And then you say, can I start to live a little bit more of that? Can I live a little bit more of that with myself? Treat myself sweeter, treat myself more fulfilling, grab a hold of a task that really I want to bite into, or something like that. Or in my relationships, can I ask for a little bit more of that from my friends? Can you be a little sweeter for me? Can you get into a deeper dialogue for me? Some of these dialogues are more boring. Can we make more intimacy in this way with doing it? Can we do that in relationships? Can you do that in the world? Those are the three questions. With yourself, in a relationship with a friend or a partner, and then in the world, can I live that? And as you live those hungers, the hunger doesn't reach for the food as much. Anyway, there's a lot more there's at least a couple more possibilities, but those are different options. Yeah.
That's utterly beautiful, to savor the essence of what you're craving and to honor that in your life is just so juicy.
Yeah. There's
I absolutely adore that.
one woman I worked with in the book, she said her favorite food, if she could eat anything too much, it would be hamburgers. And she said, I said, well, what do you do about that? She says, well, I like cheeseburgers with ketchup, and I like this mayonnaise on it, and I like this pickles, and I like all this different stuff, and I like the bun to be a really rich bun. And she talked about all these different things. She said, so when I go out to get a hamburger, I try to not have the cheese, so it would be fewer calories, and I try to leave off the mayonnaise. I think maybe I can have the hamburger without the bun, right? So she lays out, can you follow? This is her diet program, right? Have a little bit of what you want, the hamburger, but don't have all these other things. So again, I made a dialogue with her. I'm going to be your diet program. Can't you go without the cheese, etc.? And I want you to fight for the hamburger the way you want it. And let's see if we can learn what you're doing. Again, I'm not saying she should or shouldn't eat the hamburger. I'm trying to get to know what she's hungry for, what she's getting. She says, okay, I mean, I have to stand up for eating the hamburgers? Yes, for now.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. She says, I really like hamburgers. I said, can't you go without the cheese? She says, hamburger's not a hamburger unless it's a cheeseburger, right? So I'm like, now we're in, because she's got them. She's got the energy, right? I said, what about the mayonnaise? How about just having not the mayonnaise? The mayonnaise mixes with the ketchup and it makes this special flavor, and that's the most delicious part of the hamburger, right? Saying, great. I said, can't you go without the bun? The bun's this perfect round sandwich, and if you don't eat the bread with the hamburger and the cheese, it doesn't come out to be this bite in your mouth when you're chewing. That would be crazy, right? So she's now I'm fighting her. This is what's going on inside of her, but she's not conscious of it. She's just thinking, oh shit, I shouldn't be eating. By the way, you know what she would do when she had her hamburger meat from the cafeteria at work without all those things? After work, she'd go out and get a hamburger, right? Because she didn't get the hamburger, right?
Yeah,
so you're going through 4 or 5 of these, can't you do without? I said, do you have to have everything? And then, like the other woman with the chocolate, she says, I never get to have things exactly the way I want them. I said, like what? She says, well, we just painted the dining room in my house. And my husband wanted white with a little red in it. I wanted white with a little blue in it. Not like a huge thing in some people's world. And I accommodated and said the white with the blue. I said, oh, she says, but what do I do about my diet program? I said, your first thing, you got to go repaint the wall. Now, how in God's or anybody's name would anybody think repaint the wall a color is a diet program? But knowing that story, you think she's trying to get things the way she wants them. She gives up too much. She accommodates too much. She needs to practice that particular skill. So doing that helped. And then she decided she gave up going to college when she had kids, and her husband thought she should be home, and that was a good thing for the woman to do. And I just threw my pen in the air. I got so excited.
The ice cream is gone.
Let me throw more things.
What are you doing?
Throwing things like crazy, So she decided to go back to college, and that helped the hamburger eating because she started doing things that she wanted to do. The other woman had a no. This woman had yes. There are things I really want that I don't do, but I'll do them with hamburgers, and I'm not going to give up any of it. Right. Yeah. So anyway, you're thinking about the hungers people have.
So helpful because it just really shows that whatever you are craving and hungering after is what your life is craving, and they highlight. So now going from the things that we're craving into the past where we've been hurt.
Yeah.
So there've been a couple of people.
I'm sorry. I got to say one more thing. Okay. I'm sorry. I'm interrupting. But about patriarchy and sexism.
Yeah.
They play into all these because you can see how, for many women, experience the culture as I shouldn't be voracious. Whether that's sexually, whether it's my needs, whether it's my demands, whether it's I want to be more powerful, whether I want to have more voice. I should be smaller in my hungers and my demands, my needs, my longings. And smaller means that I will have a part of me that thinks I should be smaller, And then you can see why you'd resist the diet, which has in it, be smaller. And someone says, I don't want to be small, I want to be bigger. I'm actually much hungrier than you would know. I'd roll you all over if you knew how much I was putting my appetites away. I just wanted to bring in the sexism aspect, how that feeds in it. But go to the stories. I'm following you too. Yeah.
All right. So somebody said, my mother was my abuser. I look like her, I sound like her, I move like her, and I hate it. So when I look at myself, I see her.
Yes.
And I hate looking at myself because it reminds me of her, so I hide. How can I get over this? Because I'll always look like my mother, and then it always reminds me of the abuse.
It's a great question. That's a powerful story too. And I have some ideas, but I want to say before I give my ideas, which I think are great ideas because I've learned them from research and women have taught me, but I also want to say stories like that deserve high respect in the sense of the challenge a person's up to. Otherwise, it looks like, well, here's the answer, do these 3 things. And that's feeling-wise not sufficient to understand generational stories and the depth and the difficulty in moving a mountain of generational traumas and other kinds of things. You need a high respect for those things so we don't throw a solution at a person that is up against enormous forces. Gender forces, other forces, abuse forces, trauma forces, shame of people not wanting to hear the story and not seeing that. So there's so much, I want to hold that before I give what I think are ideas that I've learned from people. But it's very important, the compassion for oneself. I've had things, I work with great therapists, I think. I'm 65. There are things I've worked on for 28 years. Some of them I've gotten much better. Some have gotten a little bit better. And I work really hard and I have good people and I've invested the money and I do the work because that's the pace of the change. And then how do I get along with my story, a Jewish story, a violent home, abusive story? How do I absorb those things and make it into something glorious, not just my limits and I'm broken and I'm abused? Those are true things. But how do I hold those things so that it becomes a living story? Read Maya Angelou's Cage Bird Sing, how she tells in her 70s, when I went to see her, about her abuse story, that she doesn't only get over, but makes something glorious out of it. So I just want to hold that in that way. Maya Angelou is a great teacher for me about holding things that take time and generations. Okay, let me say a couple of things about that now. 2 things. 1, compassion for oneself. How do you begin having compassion for looking the way you don't like? Because the hatred of the way you look by itself could create a self-hating, body-hating, self-hating thing that needs medicine, right? And the medicine, one medicine is, I'm going to offer 2, is a kind of compassion for yourself. How do you do that? This is how I would do it. Somebody else is going to do it differently. I would say, imagine this hand is your body that you don't like. That's also receiving a lot of, I don't like you, right? Imagine this hand was so intelligent and loving. The most loving, intelligent hand or person that you know that's their hand. It could be an author. It could be an imaginary figure. It could be someone. And please have this hand begin to touch that hand. And explore. What am I doing right now, Zariya? I'm holding it kind of firmly. That feels good. What am I doing now? I'm stroking. What am I doing now? I'm feeling intimate details. What am I doing now? I'm warming. So whatever you're doing, let your hand explore. What is it doing? What is it doing? Because that quality, the loving quality towards that which is not loved, you need to know it in yourself. You won't make up something that's not in you. I guarantee it. But so you need a little bit of that practice of loving yourself. And this is one way a person can get in touch with, I'm calling that a compassionate medicine. And it's the one that's right for you. Because somebody's going to need to be held. Some people need to be swallowed, held really tight. Hold me really tight. Doesn't look good. I know I want to be wrapped up so tight in somebody's arms that even when I take it, leave me alone. they're not going to go. So, but your hands will know that. Belief. Trust your hand to know that. That's the first thing I would do, and it may be the only thing. Okay, here's the second thing, and it's more difficult, and approach it slower, and if it doesn't feel right, if you want to run away from it, and stick with this other thing. Don't go to a mirror, but stand up and have your hands express the size of your body. So if I would stand up, I'm sitting, and I would kind of go, it's like this. My body's like that, right? I'm letting my hands express that, or I'd be like, it's like this. It's rolls of body, right? Or it's saggy. Whatever that is, let your hands do that. Let your hands do that. Keep going with that. Forget about your not liking it. This is who, and try this phrase. I want to be more like this. I'm becoming, a part of me needs to be more like this. Something about me wants to be more like this in the world. And see what that means. For me, this would be, for instance, relaxed and droopy and not on all the time. This would be, I want to be bigger. I want to take up more space, right? And this would be more flowy. So let your mind come up with that, but you're trying to get to know something. Now, given your mother was abusive, there's a chance that what you're seeing is something unpleasant. That's very difficult to want to have a little bit in yourself. But sometimes, if a person's worked, this is a delicate thing, but if you've worked on an abuse situation for a long time, and I suspect someone who can talk about their mother's abuse that easily, they're not new to that territory. Because new to that territory, you have to only have compassion for the hurt. You can't do this. But if you're not new to that territory and you've worked on that for months, years, maybe decades, then you sometimes need a little tiny homeopathic dose of what that abuser has. Now, for instance, my father would use belts and fists and beat up kids. I don't think I should use belts and fists on anybody. But the little dose is like, I'm not going to take anything from anybody. If I didn't have that, I never get a law degree. So the meanness sometimes in someone, you don't want to become mean. Don't hurt your children. Don't do those kinds of things. But a little bit of the energy, a little taste of it. I think I want to use a little bit of that grr that she had in her. That's why you have to get in touch with it, the very essence taste. It's not about beating up kids. Don't do that, right? Don't beat up yourself. But a little taste of that. Some people need, over time in abuse work, people at some point need integrate a little bit of the power in there, not the nastiness. How can I use a little bit of that? Otherwise, that energy stays over generations. Now, again, some people will say, I want anything to do, never want to be like my mother, ever. I say, don't do that exercise then. But over time, many people need a little of that dose. It's hard.
Yes,
yeah.
That's so helpful.
Yeah.
I just want to also say to everybody who is watching this, that David's book is available in next month. It's available now on pre-sale, and I will put the link in the email to everybody for the book in America and the UK. Yeah. It's one of the most beautiful books that I've read, of deep process and unique ways of working with things so that you're not rejecting any part of yourself. I wonder, David, if we've got time for one question more.
Let's try a couple more. Oh, yeah, and December 1st, next Tuesday, is actually the official publication date. So then you could pre-order now, as you said, but you could,
order on that day would probably be best then.
Yep. That'll be a great day. And I'll tell you about another project people might want to get involved with. But ask another one or two questions.
Great.
They're great questions. Yeah.
So there's so many, and I just want to find one. Okay, so here's one. My mum would take away food as punishment and then make me eat what I don't like. And then she'd tell me to eat less if I was getting too fat when I was anorexic and bulimic. So now there's a big problem with restrictive eating, and my relationship with food involves fear, guilt, shame, control, punishment. Now have IBS. And there's a lifetime of restrictive eating that's resulted in food intolerances and digestive disorders. I've never found anyone who can help me with the issue of restrictive eating. How can I start to help myself?
I mean, this woman probably already knows, and it's worth amplifying, having that conflict with your mother, and it doesn't have to be literally her. Because some people say, should I do it with that person? Sometimes it's good to do it with the person, but it's not necessary. But having that out, have that conflict out and win. That means kind of like a role play. This is the mother, you should eat this, and fight against that and win that fight. I would have that out regularly. I would take anyway, that would be one thing. Have somebody role play that yourself. Have a therapist role play that mother, not just once, and learn to bring out all of you have no control over me at all, period. I am no longer movable. I am as detailed, as specific, as controlling, as disciplined, as eccentric as my eating habits about how much I'm going to not give an inch. All that energy in that particular thing, that needs to happen. That would be the first thing. Have that out more than once. The second thing is, please notice the way you feel controlled inside yourself that you don't only want to be. I make myself get up in the morning at a certain time. I really should be more disciplined. I really have to be there for people. These kind of things that you ought to do, and maybe you'll still do, but please notice those. Anything that you did in the day that you did not want to do, that you didn't have enough control over doing, at the end of the day, if you want to do this exercise, again, if it doesn't fit for you, throw it out. But this can help. At the end of the day, write down one thing where you felt like, if it were up to me, I would have done this differently or not done it. Write it down, and then let yourself say, if you can do it out loud, great. If not, do it in writing. Here's why I didn't want to do that. That was not right for me, etc. I'm not going to do that anymore. You can't make me do things I don't want to do. Even if you have to do it again the next day for your boss, let that voice express itself, because it's expressing itself in the territory of food, and it's not getting to express itself in other territory. That this is up to me. I have control over me, and nobody else does, even inner voices that I don't agree with. Even if you can't change the outer, it's very important to express from the inside, this is how strongly I disagree. And if you did nothing else but write down one thing that you felt like you wanted more control of that you didn't, and spoke against that with strength, if you do that every day for 21 days, because habits change, you'll start to act differently in the outer world. And that food, the way the food is taking up that conflict, I don't want to say it will, because I don't have panaceas, but it can loosen up. Yeah.
That's just fascinating. And I can see that's so perfect for this woman, because there has been so much control, and to be able to stand up against that would just be so fabulous. Yes,
because people people use food as a place, just like that person who says no, right? Or yes, people use food to express certain things. So you can't say stop this, don't do it that way, don't be so that way. You have to take the energy the person is putting into it and believe in it. Wow, you're not going to do it. You're not going to take one thing. You're not going to eat one drop. You'll starve yourself, even if and then you have to say, yes, that's not good. It's not healthy. Please eat. Don't hurt yourself, etc. And what am I going to do with that much power and intensity and focus that I have in me? Can that be lived somewhere? Is a big question. Abuse stories, always around eating issues, eating disorder. I don't always use those words, but bulimic inclinations and anorexic inclinations, always important to look at. Are there trauma stories, abuse stories in the background? If somebody says no, look again, because sometimes people dismiss something that doesn't look big to someone else or to their own mind. So those stories sometimes.
And when you find those stories, how do you if somebody's working on themselves individually, how would they address that? Because some people have said, they've had that and now they don't want anybody to touch them. Other people have said, how do they get comfortable with their bodies because of the trauma in them? And how, then they feel differently about their bodies because of the trauma. So how do you tend to work with it when there's been trauma? If you suddenly wake up, oh, there is this trauma inside.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, that's worth a whole workshop. And just, I'm saying that again because of the respect, humility I have, not a put down of what it takes to wrestle with those issues and the individuality and how answers can be used. If you have an abusive inner system, answers become a way to abuse oneself. I should do this and I didn't do this and I failed. So answers need to be carefully cared for. And any answer around abuse, a person should think, does this feel not right to me even a little bit? Because the importance, if one's in an abuse story, the importance of being able to say that's not right for me is so important. I don't care if it's God's answer, whatever. I don't want to insult anybody's religion, but David's perfect answer from 10 billion years of research. If you're kind of going, the hesitation is important because the yes and no. But I want to just give one idea. I'm just trying to remember now about the trauma stories. One thing that's often overlooked around abuse. So out of all the things I could say, if I said one thing that's often overlooked in the abuse story. Look, I need another pen or something. I don't have one. Okay. So let's say here's a person and here's an abuser. This person hurts that person physically, sexually, emotionally. They hurt that person. That's an abuse scene. And then a lot of people process this problem, the perpetrator or the victim. The perpetrator, people use the word victim in a way that's not so pleasant. I don't find it that way. A hurter and a hurtee. Somebody, right? So assaulter and the person assaulted. So people process that. What's the abuser in your relationship with them and how you stand up to them. The thing that people miss, and it's as important, if not more important, is, look, here's my glasses. So another set of glasses. So every abuse scene has a witness. Somebody who saw, somebody who should have seen, but wasn't there, but should have seen, right? Somebody who I told about it a day later, 3 years later, 3 centuries later. Every abuse scene has a witness or one or more. That can be someone who didn't see. And the abused person, and I can think of myself that way, not only takes in an assault, but they take in a belief about themselves. And that belief is the belief of the witness. So if no one saw, then I walk around thinking, maybe I didn't. Did it really happen? And maybe it didn't. Do I really believe myself? Maybe it's not that important. Maybe I'm making a big deal about it. So they take in this viewpoint about their life, right? If someone says, that never happened, then they start to think, why am I always making that? Am I imagining things? If someone says, that's because you are a bad person, that's why you were punished, that's why I hate you, then the person says, why am I always doing stupid things? So that viewpoint, I call that a shaming witness. That viewpoint is very important to interrogate and get to know. If it was me and I have a father, bam, 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 David, I hurt you. And then I have a mother who says, why are you upset with your father? He's a good guy. Okay? That's the way I'm mothered. I'm not saying she's the problem, the father's the problem. It could have been the opposite. It could have been my father who is but then I mother myself, you see, in a certain way. I mother myself by dismissing my hurts, not taking care of myself, not thinking I need rest, because she says my discomforts are nothing. So people parent or love themselves in the way that this thing did. So if you have something inside, so when you tell your abuse story to yourself, who was there and who wasn't there? That's very important. What the message they give me? You're not important. That's not true. Why believe you? You deserve that. Those are main ones. Denial, that didn't happen. Dismissal, it's not a big deal. You make things up. You're too sensitive, right? Or some kind of bypassing, some kind of gaslighting. You deserved it. Those three often happen. And if you have those, you have to be very careful around how you walk through your life with those messages. And it's kind of a reparenting. I need to build a mother that doesn't say, so you're exhausted, you can get through this day. Can you follow? Because that's what she did when I was abused. Nothing's happening. Don't make a big deal. So I still do that. I still have to remind myself, maybe I need a nap. Maybe I should cancel a client today. That's part of my abuse story, is this witnessing myself in a new way. Anyway, and that has a lot of, that can help people over time, as much as working on this particular abuse scene. The abuse scene is very important. You can get hurt, you can get maimed, you can never recover from the physical damage, from the scarring. And the beliefs that we take in are so big. That's why in America they prosecuted, can't remember the guy's name. He was a University of Michigan gym coach, and he was an Olympic gym coach, right? He abused so many girls and women under the guise of medically trying to help treat them to become better gymnasts. It took 161 women to come forward over decades, and a woman judge and a woman prosecutor. That's how much dismissal there is. It's not happening. We don't believe you. Women were no longer alive who took their lives. You know, this is the rippling out of that, because not just because there's one abuser, but because the whole culture says, this university did, the gymnastics associations did, the parents of those kids saying something doesn't feel right did. This witnessing creates a field of damage that never outs this particular, that's why this particular thing. And then people take in themselves, why am I depressed? Why am I doing this? Why am I starving myself? Why am I eating? How come I'm so sensitive? People shaming themselves constantly, treating themselves like something's wrong with me, as opposed to I'm having a reaction to something that's really important.
So brilliant.
That's a big topic. Yeah.
That's so helpful.
Yeah. Who was there? Who wasn't there? As important a question as who was the abuser.
So profound.
Thanks, Zariya. Yeah. I get
I'm
so
so grateful.
about that question. Like, I notice as I say it, I'm like, because I want to, like, because if I were free, I want to, like, I have a window in front of me. If I wasn't worrying about my hands and all, in my imagination, I'm punching those glasses and smashing things and making a lot of noise because we shouldn't be quiet. Because something says, don't talk about it too much. You've already told the story 2 times, 20 times. You're really making there's so much suppression and silencing around abuse. So somebody should make a lot of noise, right? We should make a lot of noise. I should make a lot of noise. I should write another book and do videos and talk to people like you and say, let's make a lot of noise about this.
Yeah, we need, you know, in the face of denial and dismissal and gaslighting and bypassing, we need to scream sometimes, because that's the only way to get heard.
Yeah.
And I'm aware there'll be some people who haven't felt heard because I have so many questions. I don't know if you've got time for one more, or you want to summarize, or...
I can't help but do one more, because I'll do one more, and then I want to talk about a project to see if people might be interested in.
That would be great.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll combine.
Thank you, everyone, for asking the questions and listening.
I'll combine a couple of one. It's about people's relationship to their bodies, like scars, stretch marks, extra skin, body shape, gaining weight from medication. You know, all these sort of body things that happen that then begin to consume them. And how do you relate to those preoccupations? You know, they're two different people, but they've used things like preoccupy or consume, or is my body doing this fighting me, or does it happen because there's some sort of disorder in me? How do I relate to these changes or things that I didn't create but are happening in myself? How do you
overcome
big topic.
It's such a big topic. I mean, the first thing I start thinking about is people who've written poetry and told stories. I think it was I think it was Alice Walker. I could be wrong, who wrote was it warrior scars, or I'm not forgetting, but she's probably done videos on it. So he wants us to have other people like Alice Walkers of the world adding their vision, revision, right? In the best sense, so we know how to look at ourselves. So having other women who talk about those things, what scars are, what body things are, and making beauty and power out of them, so you can graft yourself onto their vision. That can be really helpful. The two things I think of are akin to an answer I gave before. I'll give those quickly. One is I would do that medicine thing. If this was the scar, and you can do it on the literal scar if you want, and this hand had you have to imagine the best medicine you can, the most, my angel would be for me, or whatever, but somebody that's the most loving, who really would know. Practice that a little bit to build that relationship. But then getting close to the thing about that scar, that body type, that is difficult for you. This is how I would do it in the moment, right? There's always different things. I would get a pillow. Okay, let's imagine this shirt is a pillow. Pillow is going to be better for this exercise. Okay, and then let's imagine that's the pillow, and then I would make this pillow into the scar. It's right there. It's like a crease like that. I'm making a crease. Okay, or it's like that. It's a twisted up thing. You don't have to be literal. It's more like a twisted up thing right there, right? Or something like that. So the pillow will give you the ability to shape it. I'm saying this because a little play is very important to help you, because if you're in such an antagonistic relationship with something, it gets hard to, I call that dream, feel into it outside of I don't like you, so it's hard for me to get to know you because I don't like you. That's our central relationship, and that needs the medicine, the caring hand. But then let's say I say it's like a crease. There it is. It's a crease like that. It should be flat and nice. A nice shirt like that. It shouldn't be like that, right? So, and then what to do? This takes the child's mind. You got to let yourself have a child a little bit, and then take that crease and make more of it. Make the crease more. I would do like that, right? You gotta be play. Somebody else is gonna do like this, right?
Yeah.
But play a little bit. Do it like that, and then this is a crazy idea, but then once you do that, this is, I don't know, I'm shy about saying this because it's crazy, but because there's so many different techniques, but this is one. Then once you do that, make believe that's a puppet, and talk to it. Hi. Why are you so creased? I don't like being open. What do you mean? I'm closed. Try to get through. I'll never open to you ever again. I'll stay closed for the rest of my life. Can you follow? That came up for me. I just made it up. I must want to be more closed, or I wouldn't have said that. Play with that a little bit so you can make a relationship with it that is not just the kind one, which is a good beginning, but then I wonder if I have a relationship that says, thank you for reminding me of something. That's what I'm trying to get to. And then the relationship with the thing gets bigger. Oh, I still wish you would go away, but it's true. I do need to close up more. That may be a little bit too quick to show that.
Beautiful. No, that's beautiful, because there's a lot of work that when we access that relationship with ourselves in an exaggerated way to expand the insights and the secrets underneath.
That's it.
That don't just come from just sort of relating normally. We have to tease out what's there so that we can really be free and be clear of what's hiding underneath.
That's it. Because our relationship with something we don't like is usually tight. And then if sexism is in there and you don't look pretty as a woman and this and that and all those, if that adds in there, it makes it even tighter. And that makes it hard to loosen it up to say, can I get to know you a little bit? And then if somebody says, I just want to make it go away, do the things, you get the creams and stuff that you're thinking. If that's what you want to do, I'm not against that. But if that's not going to only work, building that relationship. Yeah.
It's, beautiful. Your approach is just so honoring, creative, delightful, of really waking people up to a deep, delicious relationship with themselves.
Right.
So they meet and welcome all that they're experiencing. It's just wonderful.
Thank you. That's the point. If we think, I don't like this, I want to get rid of something, and you're successful, great, right?
Yeah.
But if you're not successful after 3 times, 30 times, 300 times, 30 years, 3 months, however you want, then you might want to think, trying to get rid of a part of myself may build shame. It may build a deeper sense of failure, a deeper sense of shame, a deeper unhappiness with myself, and my long-term relationship with myself starts to get really negative. And then other things don't flower because I'm in such an unhappy relationship with myself that it's hard to be intimate. It's hard to be intelligent. It's hard to show my ideas because I'm caught in a tight knot. So people have so much intelligence and beauty and powers and messages in them. The freeing those is a really big deal.
So beautiful. Yeah. And, for those of you who have not met David before, read his book. I will send you a message. I will make a post on the 2nd of December because that is the day that it's being released. And it would be wonderful for us to, as a community, to support the release so that things are bought on that day. So I'll do a post on the 2nd of December with the links to books in America and books in the UK so that we can support that. Thanks. I'm so grateful that you've come live, and you wanted to share something else too.
So I'm just thinking of time, and I want to care about me and other people and bodies that need bathrooms and things like that. 10 years ago, there was a gay youth male who took his life, couldn't come out to his family and his community, and various other factors took his life. And then there was a man, his name just went out of my mind, gay man and his partner did a YouTube video. And they said, I was like you once. I was thinking of not living, but I got out of my family and I made changes and I met people, and it can get better. Don't take your life so quickly. Or at all. But that video was so moving to people that another person said, I'm going to make one. Another person said, I'm going to make one. And then celebrities, the Ellen DeGeneres of the world, the Barack Obamas of the world, people started making videos. And today there are 70,000 of those videos. Wow. And a website called It Gets Better Project, where people can go listen to stories, write your own videos, make your own videos. Well, that's been on my mind for a long time. And about 3 months ago, I woke up going, damn, I can't believe I have to do this. And I was, because I have too many things on my plate. And my partner woke up, what's going on? And I said, I have to make an It Gets Better project for these stories, for other women to tell theirs, to have places where you can make a video and add it to a video library, or just go listen to the stories with its resources, exercises like the ones I'm giving, etc. So I'm it's called the Unchained Body. And I'm asking, it'll probably be into the beginning of 2021 when the website's actually ready, so you can go there and make a couple of clicks and tell your story. And now there'll be guidelines and prompts for how to do that. But I've been asking.
What will the website be called?
It's going to be called The Unchained Body. But I've been asking women if they would be ambassadors for that project. And being an ambassador means that you'd be willing either to make a story. Once I give you the prompts for that, like click a few things, YouTube comes on, you can delete it, you have to keep it there, and begin to tell other people about what I'm learning, about the research, asking other women to contribute stories or go there and learn about things or contribute feedback to it. So I've begun to ask people. There are now 156 people who said, I want to be ambassadors for that, trying to help that message, trying to help this thing. It's not going to be associated with David Bedrick's website. It's a thing in and of itself to build a library of stories. You can go there in the middle of the night if you're upset with something. You can ask these questions and maybe look at a story of someone else, or you can say, this is what I learned about it, and contribute to other people. It's not for someone to say, I lost 20 pounds and I can get into my bathing suit. That's great. Have those stories, but that's not what I'm trying to do.
This is not a before and after picture. This is about.
It's not the before and after picture. It's here's what it's about. It's the rape stories. It's I've learned this. It's the mother stories. It's hey, I deal with my scars. Here's the intelligence in me. here's these kinds of when I'm learning about self-love or body positivity and things like that. So if anybody wants to be part of that, they can contact Zariya, I guess, get my email and say, I would love to be part of that. And then you'll start getting some information about here's what you can do next. And then nobody's obligated. It's not like there's no contract. But if you're interested in helping, that would be super.
That's so beautiful. That's so lovely. And I will, for the people who've subscribed to this, I will give David your email, and then he can send you a link about it so that you're able to partake in that. It's just, I'm so grateful to you for the work that you do, for the depth you bring, for you following your intuitive voices. And I think that's such a beautiful project for so many people who have experienced such trauma and need stories to remind them that there is light on the other side of the trauma. One of the people in one of the questions said, how do you get out of disassociating? Which I know you mentioned a bit of the first story that you said, so I didn't ask that question, but there's so many people who were asking things about trauma. I think it's such a huge thing.
Now I want to talk about dissociation. Here's the problem with dissociation. The problem created by some views. The problem is people try to say it's no good, you shouldn't do it, and you shouldn't disappear, you should be in your body, when the person's intelligence is saying, I don't want to be here. So just the general intelligence. When somebody tells me they're dissociating, I say, how far away would you want to go? One side of the room, the other side of the world, in the stars. Let yourself get the intelligence behind it before you pull yourself back. Let yourself not be only against, I want to go away, I want to disappear. Where do I want to go? Anyway, just so we don't get into the you should be different.
Yeah, I agree. I often ask, where do you want to go and how does it feel there?
Yes.
What are you trying to get out of there that is helping you to cope with now? It's so essential to honor that part.
Yeah. Anyway, see what you did to me? You had to bring up another thing. I'm blaming you for that. You're totally responsible for my time. You know, my choices are totally in your hands.
Thank you.
What would happen? But you know, it won't last forever. But you know, for another.
It's such a delight to have you here. On behalf of everyone, thank you so much. And to everybody, I will send you out an email with the link to this and the link to his books for the 2nd of December. David, just such a blessing to have you here. And for you to share your wisdom and your tools. And as somebody said in the comments, she's never heard anything like this, and she's been around for many years. And somebody else said, this is so enlightening. And it's just, you know, I'm so grateful to you for giving us your time, your wisdom, your presence. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. So welcome. Yeah.
Somebody's just written there that this was so beautiful. It was really emotional at times, and thank you. Right. All right. Sending everybody love. We'll see you on the other side.
Bye. Thank you.